Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today we are reviewing the Caves of Androzani. One of the big ones, the Fifth Doctor's swan song, and I think his best portrayal as the Fifth Doctor. And I've made a lot of notes. I'll go through the notes first, and then I'll talk about the overall story later. Episode 1, I liked the opening in the desert. I thought the scenery looked really good when him and Perry are talking in the desert. I thought the actual shot looked really good. The actual conversation they were having, I found a little irksome and boring and uninteresting. Basically, the whole time they were talking going into the cave, I was just like, come on, get on with it, let's go. You're the Caves of Androzani, don't bore me from the get-go. For the record, this is a story I've seen multiple times before. The guys running back at the creature, firing their guns in the air for no reason. You know, the three soldiers, two of them go away right at the beginning, and the first one gets attacked by the creature. They hear him scream. And they turn around, and they start running back, firing their guns in the air immediately. This doesn't seem very prudent to me. So, holy crap, Mike's in trouble. By the time they got to Mike, they'd be out of bullets. There's the creature. Click, 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 click. Why were we firing the guns at the ceiling the whole way here? I don't know, it was Frank's idea. You listen to Frank? Never listen to Frank. So, I don't know, just go actually watch that scene. It makes no sense why they're randomly firing their guns in the air. The next one is I love the ominous bell that tolls when Perry first ends up in the Spectrox little pod stuff with the cobwebs on her. Right when the camera switches to seeing her with her legs stuck in it, there's this boom kind of bell that tolls, like foreshadowing that this is bad. I think there's another once or twice that does it in the story too, but that first one right there really, my sinuses are up, really very ominous, good foreshadowing, really letting you know, ooh, something eventful just happened. The doctor just brushes it off of her. You know, when he brushes the Spectrox off her leg, the third doctor would be shocked. It is, this stuff that you don't know if it's dangerous or not. I mean, he assumes it isn't, but the third doctor would have been like, don't touch it! Or even the 10th doctor with the water stuff, you know, in the waters of Mars, don't touch her. You know, the third doctor in the Green Death, don't touch it! And Peter Davis is just like, don't. This has got to be the worst case of the doctor getting himself killed. In the sense that the whole reason he gets the Spectrox poisoning is because he's just brushing it off her leg. Oh, well, doesn't seem dangerous. Don't step in anymore. Maybe he just wanted to fill Perry's legs up. I don't know. Maybe it was, you know, Nicola Bryant, attractive-looking lady. Maybe the doctor was just like, yeah, you got some Spectrox on you. Let me get that off for you. Yeah, I think it's harmless. Don't step in anymore. So, you know. In that case, I don't blame the man. But it just seems odd for the doctor, who's normally so big on not touching, you know, stuff that could be dangerous. He just, brush it off. I love the bit when they meet the general and they're doing the sir bit. I prefer you address me as sir. I just love how much of a sarcastic little snarky person the Fifth Doctor is. Like when Perry answers him and she doesn't say sir, and Peter's like, sir? She's like, oh yeah. And then she corrects Peter later. She's like, sir. And he goes, oh, thank you. Because, you know, a lot of people think of Peter as like the nice doctor, but he's such a sarcastic little prick sometimes. And I love it. I love it. And he has this smile. I will admit, Peter Davison has a very enchanting smile. And sometimes it's a very genuine smile, like in Four to Doomsday, which I've also rewatched just recently, and he notices the camera watching him, he just smiles at it. A very genuine smile. But here, when he's talking to the general, it's got this bit of a smart aleckness to it when he smiles as the whole time he's talking. And I absolutely am there for it. I absolutely love it. I just love that whole sir bit. The conversation between Morgus and the general right after that, when they bring in the doctor and the Perry to talk to Morgus as well, and Jack is listening in on the radio. That whole scene is edited really weird. Like, there's even a joke where the doctor goes, do I have to call you sir as well? I'd rather you not speak to me at all. But the part where the doctor says it is on the video Jack is watching, so you don't hear the audio very well. It's a funny joke. but it doesn't really work. And I don't even know when they brought the Doctor and Perry into the conversation. I remember Morgus saying, I want to talk to them, and then them just being there with the check thing. It's like we missed part of the conversation. Just the pacing and editing of that scene feels really wonky and really off to me. That whole little bit right there. Let's see. Next, I mentioned Morgus's fourth wall breaks, and this is over the whole story. There's a couple times where the camera's right here, and he's talking about how dangerous everything is, and he's looking dead at it right here. That happens a couple times, and then, of course, there's that scene in episode 3 when he's watching here, and he keeps turning around. The president must have found out about all of this. I have to do something and act immediately. And I'm sitting here going, and this is the story people call the greatest Doctor Who story of all time, or the greatest Classic Who story of all time. You kidding me? When was the last time those people actually watched it? The whole character of Morgus, the way the actor plays that character is so cartoonish. And I don't know the actor. He might be normally a really good actor. I don't know. But I definitely don't like the decisions he takes with the character of Morgus. He's so cartoonish and not really believable in places. And as much as I love Graham Harper, I think Graham should have pulled him inside and been like, look, Morgus, this isn't working. Here's what I need you to do. And then there's some things I like when he finds out about the coal miners are destroyed, and he's just like, how sad. Much like He Who Moans, who was talking about that scene recently. I think that's hilarious the way he says it. How sad. That's kind of my response now when I hear something that's not really sad. Anytime people complain about stupid stuff, that's what plays through my head now. How sad. So yeah, the fourth wall breaks bother me. Morgus's conversation with his secretary in the elevator is weird. Right at the end of episode 1, I believe it was, when they're the Morgus and his secretary are in the elevator and they're like this close to each other talking, and it's really dark lit. It just looks uncomfortably close. I'm sitting here watching, is he about to make out with her? Is he about to stab her? Because it could go either way with Morgus and the way the scene is shot. I mean, she definitely has I think a claim here for harassment. They're awfully close. He's got to be in her space. Technically, he should have a claim too, because she's in his space, but double standards being what they are, that's not how it works. But yeah, that whole scene is just creepy and weird for no reason when they're right here chatting right before the elevator opens and they go out. It just kind of put me off. And I think that's all the notes I have for episode 1, which is the longest. And my end result of episode 1 was just Seriously, my end thought of episode 1 was meh. And we're not finished. Don't get out your torches and pitchforks just yet. So, don't get them out. Hold your horses. Moving into episode 2, the first note I have is Jek is creepy AF. Yes. Yes, he is. The guy playing Jek does such a good job here. He's so creepy. And I get the Phantom of the Opera vibe. Yes, I know. Just the way he talks to Perry, the way his body language moves when he puts his hand on her. Just when he puts his hand on her shoulder, you mean he needs it as a reassuring gesture, but it is definitely a violation of Perry's space. Big time. This whole story, he comes off being very creepy. Not meaning to. He was obviously a guy who was very attractive, very had a lot of influence, mingled with all the higher class people. He's not used to being in the dregs of society, as he puts it. And he has a temper because of it. He really is that nice guy with a bad temper. You see him trying to be nice, trying to be caring, trying to be even reasonable in places. But when he gets mad and snaps and slaps people and shoves things down and has tantrums. Kind of like, have you ever met somebody like that? They're nice. They're obnoxiously nice, irksomely nice. But when they get pissed off, they are just a complete prick that doesn't care about anybody or anything and just throws stuff. And so I like that because I know people like that. I've met people like that. So I think I think Jek is actually a really well-developed character and acted really, really well. This is the part where I mentioned the part about how sad. I have a note here that just says Perry is useless. She is, too. Perry is useless in this story. Just useless. She does nothing. Nicola Bryant's acting in this story is just to be honest. Although she does do a good job of looking like she has Spectractor poisoning. But she's just useless here. She doesn't really do much as a companion. The creature costume is okay. The creature at the end, that's one of the things people point out about the story as being weak. I personally thought the creature costume was fine. For Classic Who, better than a lot of stuff, better than the Mirkos. I mean, it's not bubble wrap. I mean, the creatures in Ark in Space were bubble wrap. And Ark in Space is still amazing, one of my favorites. So, and this is several steps above that. I mean, it's still not quite as awesome as the creature from Battlefield, which is amazing. But I think the creature is just fine. I'm perfectly fine with it. It gets a pass from me. And that's really all I had for episode 2. And again, at the end of episode 2, I put, eh. And I almost did a review right here of the first 2 episodes. Just did the first 2 episodes because I was so surprised that halfway through the story, it was just, eh. I mean, it was good. But it wasn't like top 10 Doctor Who of Classic Who ever good. You know, I was just kind of enjoying it. And I took a break between episode 2 and 3. That's it. I couldn't watch the whole story all the way through. I needed a break. So I took a break for several hours before I went back to episode 3. And I almost did a review then, but I didn't just because I was a bit wore out yesterday. And I picked back up with episode 3, and I was thinking in my head, it must be 3 and 4 where everything picks up. Foreshadowing, it is. Because I've seen Caves of Androzani before. I like Caves of Androzani. And so I was so surprised that I wasn't still super invested in the story yet. And I was thinking it had to be episode 3 and 4 where things picked up. So episode 3, seeing the blisters on Peter's hand when Jet slaps him. Close to the beginning of episode 3, when Jet gets mad, he kind of slaps Peter. And Peter's holding his neck like this, and you can see the blisters from the Spectractor poisoning on his hand. And I like that they don't call attention to it. Like if this was the Chibnall era, they would very obviously point out, you have blisters on your hand. Oh, thank goodness. The audience might not have seen that. Thank God you mentioned it. But they don't mention it here. It's not mentioned. You just have to see it, you know. As he's holding his neck, you can see the little blister marks from the poisoning there. And I like that it's there, and I like the fact they don't make a big fuss about it being there. You know, just as the audience, you should be paying attention and see that. And I like how that's done. Again, I mentioned Jek's temper. Because, as I already talked about, Jek's temper is interesting. Morgus talking to the audience again. I've talked about that already when he's doing his stuff to the audience. The biggest flaw of the whole story. This is the thing when people are like, Caves of Androzani is the greatest classic Doctor Who story episode. This is the thing where I go, why is the Doctor chained up in the spaceship control room and then left there alone? This is just plain stupid. Okay, you've got the Doctor. You've taken him prisoner. Do you put him in the brig? If there is a brig, probably not a brig. Do you put him in a guest room? Do you put him in a room? Nope, you chain him up in the control room. The very small control room. It's not a spacious control room. This is a Classic Who set. They chain him up to a very flimsy thing, which I don't know. He's a Time Lord. He's stronger than the average person. Maybe they thought he couldn't break it. First off, he contacts Morgus, so now Morgus knows the Doctor is working with the rebels. So why that had to happen, I don't know. Plot convenience. And then afterwards, they're like, well, we've got him chained up in the control room. And then they all just leave to go nap or do whatever. And they leave the Doctor there by himself, which is never something you want to do. I mean, if you leave somebody chained up in the control room, if they get free and nobody's there, they can control the ship. Guess what happens? He gets free and takes control of the ship. Really, Prowl? Yes, really! He breaks free, gets the chains off of him, starts controlling the ship, and starts crashing it down toward the planet, because, you know, plot convenience. And then when they try to go back in, they can't get through the door. You know, I guess there's just not like a pass key they put to get in. Here's the other thing. How did the Doctor get control of the ship so well? You think, you know what, if we're going to chain the prisoner up here, we got him chained up, Frank? Yeah, he's chained up. Let's go get coffee. Yeah, coffee. Did you password control the controls for the, pilot? Nah. You think there'd be some kind of password lock on the pilot controls at least? You know, you have to type something in to where you can get control of it. Only the crew would know the password to get control of the ship. Nah, we don't need that. What's the chances he'll get free? Well, I mean, so-and-so's there to stop him, right? No, Doug's with us. He's cool. That whole bit it's a huge plot hole. It's plot convenience. It's plot shielding. It makes no sense to chain the prisoner up in the control room and then leave the control room and have no safeguards in place to stop him from getting control of the ship. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the ending of episode 3, when the doctor's crashing the ship in, when they're trying to break through, and the doctor's, there's no way I'm going to let you stop me now. Great ending. One of the best endings in Classic Who. I'll give it that. I love it. But the plot convenience and everything that has to happen for it to get there is silly and stupid. And if you're one of those people that is just caves of Androzani, I'm like, really? Really? You don't see this big gaping weakness in the story right here? It's freaking obvious. There's a plot hole so big I could drive a semi through it. But the ending is great. I like the fact that the effects are so loud you can actually barely hear Davison talking. When he's like, I got her into this, I'm not going to let you stop me now. He's having to yell at the top of his lungs and you can still barely hear him. And I like that because it actually does make sense. You know, they're about to crash into a planet. He's accelerating the ship. It should be that loud. It is a really good ending to episode 3. And I did note at the end of episode 3, I wrote good with an exclamation point because things really picked up in episode 3. I really liked the way the story was going. And for the most part, that one plot convenience aside, I thought it was really good. Episode 4 starts off with Stormtrooper Syndrome. This is when the two guys are trying to shoot the Doctor. They're running after him. They're firing their automatic machine guns, and they still somehow can't hit him. I don't think these guys could hit the broadside of a planet. Get them some Stormtrooper armor. They pass. Because I get it if they would have had pistols. It's not the easiest thing in the world to hit a moving target in a big open area. I get that. But in some of those scenes, they're not that far behind the Doctor. And they have automatic weapons. They look like, like Uzis or something. All you got to do is hold the trigger down and go, ah. I don't shoot a lot of weapons. But I would imagine if you hold the trigger down and just wave it around, you'll hit something. They fire at him so many times and never hit him. Give me a blindfold and give me the gun. I can try it. I never like in stories when the only reason the hero doesn't die is because of luck. So I never like in stories when the main character's getting shot at like a gajillion times and he just happens to not get hit. Because that doesn't mean the superhero is great. That means the bad guys just happen to suck. And so I never like in stuff when I'm seeing somebody getting just drilled with bullets and they're just miraculously not getting hit. Kind of pulls me out of the story. Doesn't seem very realistic. The General's reaction, his freak out when he pulls off the mask of Jack, is comical and silly. Like when the General and Jack are fighting and the mask comes off and he goes, oh, oh, oh. He's screaming like a 16-year-old girl. Like seriously, it's like she just found out her prom date was disfigured. Oh my God, oh. That's what he's like. You're a freaking military general. And don't get me wrong, the actor playing the military general, other than that, I think he's fine in the story. I think he does a good job. He's not like super awesome, but he does a fine job. It's just that one scene where he's, oh, and his voice goes, oh, I'm like, really? And then he gets shoved out in the door. And in fact, he's so shocked, he lets Jack shove him outside when he gets hit with that boiling mud, which is a cool death, by the way. Props to that death. I like the fact that he kind of got his that way. Watching the Doctor get progressively weaker. That was cool right here in episode 4, just watching the Doctor slowly wearing down, the blisters on his hands getting worse when he gets the dirt all over his jacket kind of towards the end. Just watching him slowly running out of energy to that point at the end when he's barely able to run, carrying Perry. I like the bit with Morgan getting deposed, or Morgus getting deposed by his secretary. That whole scene when the secretary calls and talks to him, I love that scene. I like watching people get their kind of just desserts in that area, in that situation, and Morgus is kind of a prick. So I like that it was his secretary that turned on him and turned evidence and all that. Loved that. Very nice. I think the bit at the end when everyone pretty much just kills each other is awfully convenient. And it doesn't seem very realistic. You know, Jack gets shot a lot, but his will and anger at Morgus drives him forward. That I can believe. And then, you know, the robot killing the other rebel guy after he had killed the other 2 rebel guys. And then Morgus getting in the little beam that kills him. And then Jack falling into the robot's arms and both of them shutting down. It seems a little convenient and a little too well planned to be realistic. I don't mind it, but I just... And keep in mind, this is a Bob Holmes script. I love Bob Holmes. Bob Holmes is amazing. He's my favorite Doctor Who writer. I'm simply saying the script has some issues. Everyone dying right there at the end just seems a little too convenience for the story. Well, we'll do something in part 5. But Bob, this is only a 4-parter. Crap. And they all killed each other. Done. Just a little too convenient. Everything from there on, though, is perfect, and everything from there on is probably why the story is held in the regards it is. The escape when he's carrying Perry out and going into the TARDIS is amazing. I love those shots. Peter Davison is just fantastic there. And then everything inside the TARDIS with the regeneration is gold. I love that. The Doctor saving her and talking to her. The regeneration. I love how they do the regeneration in this one. Since Classic Who, the regenerations, how they're done, vary from regeneration to regeneration. I really love this one with the psychedelic look to it and all the past companions calling out to him and talking to him, and his last words, Adric, and that whole vision that fills the screen. That was really cool. One thing I forgot to mention in episode 3, I like the foreshadowing right at the end of episode 3. When he almost regenerates, he looks at the screen and kind of sees that light kind of coming, and he fights it off, which, kind of retroactively, we've all been like, well, he was about to regenerate there, but he fought it off. I like that. I enjoy that. To me, that is definitely canon. He was about to regenerate there in episode 3, but he fought it off because he didn't want to risk what could happen with a regeneration. He was too busy focusing on fighting Perry. Plus, he looked like he was about to fall asleep when the guys woke him up. So I think he was about to regenerate at the end of episode 3. And that could be one of the reasons why he had trouble regenerating here. And I just love the effect of the regeneration. So, overall, I like the Caves of Androzani. It does have some flaws that jumped out at me more so than I think I'd noticed in the past. And I promise I'm not just here to completely break it down. I can say I enjoyed my rewatch of 4 to Doomsday more. I rewatched 4 to Doomsday just a couple days ago, and I did like my rewatch. I'm not saying it's better. I'm just simply saying that where my mind is, I guess, I liked my rewatch of 4 to Doomsday better. I did enjoy my rewatch of this, especially episodes 3 and 4. I thought they were really good. I still think this could objectively be Davison's best episode. It is his best performance. It's not my favorite. I love Castrovalva a lot. I really like 4 to Doomsday a lot. And I really love The 5 Doctors a lot. This is probably like my 4th favorite Davison episode, maybe. I think all the people that go on about this one, and I know it won Josh Snare's greatest classic Who story ever poll. I know at least one of my subscribers is #1 on his greatest Doctor Who story ever list. And I just wonder sometimes if the people who rank Caves of Androzani in the top 10 ever, I want to know how recently they've actually watched the Caves of Androzani, because like J&T said, I think the memory cheats. I think people remember it better than it was. I think people remember the good stuff about it, because it does have a lot of really good stuff going on with scenes, and they forget kind of the bad stuff about it. Basically everything with Morgus and some of the other stuff. I think they forget all of the bad stuff. So here's my thing to you. I do like the Caves of Androzani. I think it can't hold a candle to pretty much anything in the Hinchcliffe era, though. I think pretty much everything in Season 13, except maybe the Android Invasion, is better. I think most of the stories in Season 12 is better. I think most of the stories in Season 14 is better. I like Horror of Fang Rot better in Season 15. I like the Sunmakers better. So, here's my thing. Before you jump down in the comments to tell me how wrong I am, here's my challenge to you. Here's your homework. Go re-watch it. Before you jump down there and tell me how amazing it is and how wrong I must be and how it's a crime to insult it, actually re-watch it. Go back. It's only a 4-parter. Re-watch the thing. If you haven't watched it in a while, go actually re-watch it. And when you re-watch it, go over it with an actual objective eye, not just nostalgia. Actual objective eye, and look at the story. Now, I'm not saying you have to go through there looking at nitpicking every little thing like, yes, this is bad. I'm not saying do that, but I'm also not saying to go into it with just euphoric nostalgia that's so great you got to have a towel next to you to watch it like, oh, it's Caves of Androzani. Don't do that either. Don't do that either. Just go through with an actual critical eye and watch the story yourself, and then see if it changes your opinion of it any. I'm curious, because as much as I like it, there's a lot of classic Who stories out there I like better. A lot of them. So yeah, that's my really long thoughts on the Caves of Androzani. Great Doctor Who story, probably objectively Davison's best, and the one I would recommend to people who wanted to watch the 5th Doctor. Other things to do: click the like button, click the subscribe button, click the bell for notifications so you never miss out on a new video. I also have a Patreon. There is a link to that down in my description below, or down in the description below. If you would like to become one of my patrons and contribute to what I do, give a special shout out to one of my new patrons, Stephen Crane, who just joined recently. Glad to have you aboard. Appreciate you joining. You have a couple video requests as well. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about. And if you would like to join my entry-level tier, for anyone else who might like to join, my entry level is only $2 a month if you'd like to jump in on that. Most importantly, though, thank you for watching.